What's up, Jets fans? It's Christian from the Jets Report, and today we're going to be discussing the top 10 Jets head coaching candidates that have been brought in for interviews or requested for interviews by Joe Douglas. To start off, let's go over what Joe Douglas said in his press conference, what he was looking for in a head coach. He wanted a CEO-style head coach that put an emphasis on player development and can develop a quarterback, which we failed to do with Sam Darnold. So to start off in number 10, I have Brandon Staley, the defensive coordinator from the Rams. And there's a few reasons why I have him at the bottom of the list. One is just because of experience. He's so young, and only 2 to 3 years ago, he was coaching Division III football. So I feel like he could definitely be a head coaching candidate later in his career, but it's just too soon for him now. And I could just see him getting a few interviews for experience purposes. And also, another concern with Brandon Staley is there's so much talent on that defense that do you think he could work with the talent on a team like the Jets defense where we lack talent at many different positions like edge rusher and corner? But I do give Brandon Staley some credit because in the playoff game against the Seahawks, the defense played amazing and really helped win the game for them. At number 9, I have Aaron Glenn, the defensive backs coach from the Saints. And Aaron Glenn was actually a former Jet in the late 90s and early 2000s. And that's what made me put him at number 9 instead of number 10. Because he could really embody what it means to be a Jet. And I feel like there's a sense of pride being a Jet. And I feel like he could bring that edge to places like the locker room and the field. But I have him so low because I feel like he's not going to jump the step and go straight to head coach. I could see him becoming a defensive coordinator first. And if Joe Douglas and the new head coach decide to bring him in as a defensive coordinator, I'll be very happy, and I feel like he could help set the tone in the locker room. At number 8, I have Dan Mullen from Florida. Dan Mullen has a lot of college experience as he's coached at many different schools, including Florida and Mississippi State. And he's also seen as a quarterback guru, where he's been able to develop quarterbacks and put them in the NFL at many different schools. For example, Dak Prescott, Tim Tebow, and now Kyle Trask is entering the draft from Florida. But my biggest concern with Dan Mullen, hearing this from Florida fans and seeing it myself, is he doesn't handle the media that well, and he seems to make a lot of excuses, which is what we had in Adam Gase, and that was an absolute mess. And if he's doing that in the media down in Florida, it's going to be everything he does is going to be magnified times 10 in the media in New York, and I really don't think that'll work out, and I really don't think that'll help our young guys in the locker room. At number 7, I have Marvin Lewis, and a lot of Jets fans, when they saw this name, were a little disappointed and were like, why are we interviewing him? But if you dive deep into it, he's actually a very good head coach. And I know going 0-7 in the playoffs in his career is not good, and I agree. He needs to improve on that. But he turned around the Bengals franchise and made them into a playoff team and a consistent team. They went to the playoffs 7 or 8 times in his career. And before he came to the Bengals, they were an absolute mess. They were in the position that we are right now. And if you look after he left the Bengals in about 2017, I believe, 2018, they've been a mess since. And so he really set a culture there. And I know they weren't winning in the playoffs, but he's a great defensive mind who can get you wins during the regular season. Even though if we get him, I would put our cap at wins at 9. I don't see him coaching a double-digit win team. So I don't see it as a flashy hire. But if we hire him, I feel like he's solid, and he could be a stepping stone and help setting the culture for the New York Jets. At number 6, I have Arthur Smith, and I feel like you could put him at 5 or 6, interchangeable with my next candidate, Matt Eberflus. Arthur Smith, he's a guy who can help simplify the offense for a quarterback and call a lot of play action, which he does at Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee. And if we decide to keep keep Sam Darnold, I would love to have Arthur Smith in the building, even though people can argue Ryan Tannehill and Sam Darnold aren't the same quarterback and they had different skill levels at the similar points in their career. But if you bring in Arthur Smith, I could see him simplifying the offense for Sam Darnold and maybe turning him into the quarterback that we once hoped he was. My one concern with Arthur Smith is you look at the talent on Tennessee's roster, it's much more talented than the Jets roster. Tennessee has a 2,000-yard rusher in Derrick Henry, a great receiving core with guys like A.J. Brown and Corey Davis, and the Jets simply don't have that. So there's a concern there that could he do the same? Could he produce the same with lesser talent in New York? At number 5, like I mentioned, I have Matt Eberflus. I could really put him at 6, but I chose to put him at 5. Arthur Smith and him are interchangeable. Matt Eberflus is a guy who emphasizes player development. And if you look at the Colts defense, they were top 3, top 5 this year. And if you look on their roster, they really don't have too many big-name players besides DeForest Buckner. Everyone else are on prove-it deals or young rookie players like guys like Xavier Rhodes, Julian Blackmon. And that's very impressive. And you see that he coaches and gets the effort out of all of his players, and his players show maximum effort. Everyone's flocking to the ball. Everyone's going 100% on every play. No one's taking plays off, and that's something we simply don't have in New York, especially with Adam Gase, he didn't really get players respect, and we can't have that in the locker room if we want to set a culture. So I could totally see Joe Douglas going with a guy like Matt Eberflus to set a culture and get the players to buy in. At number 4, I have Eric Bieniemy. I've heard some people have concerns about why hasn't he become a head coach in the past 2 years as he's gone through many interviews. And another concern that people bring up is how much credit does he really get for Patrick Mahomes' success? And is that more of Andy Reid and the quarterback's coach? But regardless of that, Eric Bieniemy has a great offensive mind, is a great play caller. And if he could bring over the Chiefs quarterback coach and pair him and become our offensive coordinator, I feel like we could have a great offense and really become a dynamic offense that opposing defenses fear. My one concern with Eric Bieniemy is how much input does he have on the defensive side of the ball. But if we get a good, almost like a defensive head coach on our team, like a guy like Marvin Lewis or Aaron Glenn, I'll be happy with the Bieniemy hire because I feel like Bieniemy can bring a culture to New York and really get the players to buy in. At number 3, I have Joe Brady, and many people compare him to a guy like Sean McVay, who is basically a coaching prodigy. Joe Brady is only 31 years old, but it seems like every single place he goes, the offense just totally changes and blossoms. He's been to LSU on that historically good college football offense. He comes to Carolina. Now, I know people say Carolina's record isn't that great, but if you dive deep into what their offense did with the talent that Teddy Bridgewater had around him, they really showed great strides and improvement, and they played in a lot of close games. So their record may not show how good they really were. And my only concern with Joe Brady is how can he get respect from the players at such a young age? Sean McVay did it well, and I hope Joe Brady could do the same. And I would be ecstatic if we get him, if we get him as our head coach. But my one concern is, aside from his age, is how much input does he have on the defensive side of the football? Because at such a young age, he hasn't really been around for that long. So how much defense experience does he have? I'm guessing very little. So in the same situation with a guy like Eric Bieniemy, I would look for him to bring in a coach like Marvin Lewis or Aaron Glenn or another experienced defensive coordinator that could basically just be the coach of the defense. And it could work out because Joe Brady has such a good offensive mind. He's such a great play caller, and it's something we haven't had in New York. At number 2, I have Robert Saleh. You could really interchange him at 1. But he's the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, and he brings such an energy, and players love playing for him. They buy in. You look at him on the sideline, he's going crazy with his own players. They're celebrating. Everyone's happy. He gets free agents to come over. He gets young rookies to play hard for him. And he's a guy that connects with the players and has a great presence in the locker room. And that's something we really don't have, and we definitely didn't have it with Adam Gase. Players despised him. And if we bring in a good offensive coordinator mind, like their running back coach from the 49ers, who's rated by most as the next up-and-coming offensive coordinator, if we could bring him with bring him in with Robert Saleh, I would be very happy, and I feel like that coaching duo can definitely win a Super Bowl in the next 4 to 5 years. And at number 1, I said it in my last video, Brian Daboll is my number 1 head coaching candidate for the New York Jets. Offensive coordinator from the Bills, and he develops players so well, and it doesn't matter if you're a middle round pick, a first round pick like Josh Allen, and he's got middle round receivers like Gabriel Davis. Everyone has a role in the offense, and he really values quarterback and player development. And I feel like that could also translate to the defensive side of the ball just because of the culture he brings. And I feel like he could be a great locker room leader. And again, I've said it in the past in this video, we've never really had that culture setter, CEO, locker room leader that Joe Douglas is looking for. And I feel like Brian Daboll brings that exactly to the table, and I would be ecstatic if they hire him. So let me know your thoughts down below. If you want to drop your list down below, I'll review it and give you my thoughts. And thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.